All right, folks. Today we're flashing back to a magical and much more patient time, an era of loading screens and buffering. I can hear the telephone line almost like it was yesterday, way back when we were just growing up on dial-up.
You've got mail.
Just like all of those crazy noises.
We'll build the internet, but you IT guys, you work on the sound that gets you into the internet. And the IT guys are like, this is where we'll show them. To log onto the internet back in our day was not as easy as it is now. I mean, you really did hear that sound. It really did take a lot of different tries. The kids today will never know how hard it was to get on the internet back then.
Yeah, and also how incredibly slow it was. Like it was just, but at the same time, when I'll admit, when I first was exposed to it, I didn't at all think about waiting times or loading times or anything. I just thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen. Like it was just amazing.
100% agree. Like flashing back, yeah, I could not do the wait times now, obviously, and thank God the internet's changed a lot. But the way the websites and the pictures loaded, how they're almost like grids, you'd get 25%, then 50%, and then the whole page. Mm-hmm. Again, kids won't know that struggle either of the wait times.
We did not have we weren't fancy enough to have multiple phone lines. I had friends that had multiple phone lines, but because we had one, that dial-up computer, if you got online, like that was it. My dad couldn't receive calls. My mom nobody could receive calls. So there was a finite amount of time that you could get on your computer then if you didn't have two lines. Did you have a single line as a kid?
Yeah, that's a really good point. No, we one single line, and young David did not realize that the phone lines would be tied down. So I always have this memory of being on the computer for a long time, and I think my mom thought I was dead because she couldn't. There weren't cell phones. I was young, there was only landlines, and she'd call, and the line is busy for hours.
Yeah.
I won't say what young David was looking at on the internet, but I did not know that the phone was tied up like that. Yeah, no, we only had one line.
We know you're just searching how to be a better person, a humanitarian. Like you were reading Gandhi.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Only wholesome.
Yeah, wholesome things on the World Wide Web. That's all we're doing.
Right. So we've talked about dial-up and just how it was back then. Okay, this is kind of going to lead into computer memories. Do you remember getting your first computer? Was it a family computer? Kind of what was that like for you?
I actually have two different memories. I think I might have been first exposed to a computer at school. Okay. And I grew up in a very small town, and it was a very poor school district. So it was like they were already old computers. They were like old Apple Macintoshes or Apple IIs or whatever they were. They just had the yellow plastic. Like they already came dingy looking. Like they were like yellowed plastic. I don't know why, straight out of the box. They already looked like they were in a smoker's house for 40 years.
They looked like the Charlie Brown kid who's always dirty. Yeah. I can't remember his name.
Was it Pigpen? Is that what I can't? It's something
but yeah, they weren't clean or pristine.
No, not at all. And so I feel like those ones in school I do specifically remember, and they were old enough where they had legit floppy disk on them. It wasn't the smaller ones. It was like, I think they had them in certain inches. So it might've been like 5 or 6 inches, really thin, like wafer thin. And I remember putting it in and having different programs and games that we'll get into later that we played on it. And I remember them having the old school real printers, the ones that were actually on a little studded reel that I was like,
and it had to turn it. Yes.
Yeah. And then I remember having to fold the sides of the paper and peel it off. Like
the serrated edges.
Yeah. So it's like, I feel like I was exposed, I was born in 85, but I feel like I was exposed to 1985 computers in the early 90s in school because that's all they could afford. They couldn't afford. I mean, if you think about it, computers back then were so expensive.
Oh, yeah.
it's just like, especially like Apple's, like there were Apple computers like the Macintoshes, they were like $3,000 to $5,000 in the 80s and 90s, which is just is crazy. So that's my first computer memory. Were you exposed to computers first in school?
Yeah, it was I was a fourth grader, and I remember at that grade, you got access to the computer lab. And I remember me and my buddy, we walked in, and there were about 13 computers in there, and they were huge. And yes, you hit the nail on the head. They were yellowish, grayish, like, I don't know. But yeah, we got to play different games, different typing games, different math games, and this and that. But I remember thinking, all right, fourth grade, computer lab, we finally made it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely just have very fond memories of that. Now, when I talk about later, you know, when I give my mom cool points for this, okay? I remember we got a computer, family computer. I'm going to ask you, give you some hints here, though, okay? Now, the box had a certain theme to it, a certain skin, if you will, a design on the box.
Okay.
Do you know what family computer my mom bought us?
Was it a Dell?
No, no, think of the box and think of the Midwest, kind of, I guess, and a farm. What was the skin on these boxes?
Oh, wasn't there a brand that was like cow skin?
Yeah.
What brand is that?
Gateway.
Gateway, that's it. I had it right on the tip of my tongue. I was like, wait, you're saying Midwest? I'm just like, yeah, I remember there being a cow-based one. Yeah, Gateway.
I didn't want to start singing Old McDonald's Farm, but I could have. We had heard, you saw commercials of it, you saw stories of it. My mom, I remember coming home, and there it was, the cow box, the Gateway computer. And I was like, we made it. We are cool.
That was a huge brand back then. It really was.
Yeah.
Because I think there was a lot of computers that it just came out of a cardboard box. Like there was no branding on it, no anything. But it wasn't until you mentioned like the cow thing that I'm like, yeah, Gateway, man. I remember the ads for that. That was huge. That was which is such a random thing. A cow is your computer mascot? Like, I don't get that.
That's what people would say. You got the computer with the cow on it, but branding and advertising, which I know nothing about, but it worked.
Well, that's what made me originally think Dell, because I remember all those ads of, dude, you're getting a Dell. There was that Dell guy that was just, dude, you're getting a Dell. The companies that were able to make computers seem cool and less like this off yellow, disgusting, really not user-friendly looking giant box. Those ones sold like hotcakes back then for sure.
Do you have some early games that kind of still resonate, and maybe even some that you wish you could play today?
I think the first game I was exposed to in school was Oregon Trail. And that was the old school floppy disk Oregon Trail, where it's like on an old, that was back when the pixels were just like this green pixels.
Okay, so
no
you
color.
had the green and the black screen.
Yeah, for my school ones. Yeah, because they were so old. They were 80s computers. And so in my mind, that's the only way I feel like I view Oregon Trail. When I see screen captures, when we were thinking about doing this episode and I was looking things up, when I see full color Oregon Trail, I'm like, what is this?
Don't get mad at me. I played the color screen one. And I remember looking at it.
That's no Oregon Trail. That's a knockoff.
It had a rattlesnake on the front. It was all colorful. There was a desert scene. And when I saw that as I was looking at images, I was like, yep, that's the one I had. And I would just start out with my cart into the water. Oh, you're dead.
Yeah.
The hunting was fun, but I don't understand how to beat that game even today, I don't think.
Why were there so many rivers to cross? Are there that many rivers in Oregon Trail?
Who mapped out the Oregon Trail?
I had some that I played that were the kind of first-person shooters of that era. And one of the ones that I played was Duke Nukem. And Duke Nukem, at the age that I was not something that I should have been playing, but my dad gets cool points for actually letting me play it.
So there's a game I had that I also should not have played way too young, and I didn't even finish it. It was a survival horror game called System Shock 2. Okay. I looked it up because I was like, there's no way it was as scary as it was when I was growing up. And I looked up the images of it. I was like, oh, yeah, it was that scary. Here's the question I have. When I thought of System Shock 2, and I think of the games you're talking about, do they look better in your head? And then you go back and watch them and you're like, oh my God, they look terrible.
The 110%.
The games I had, okay, here's a game that I had that I played a ton. A game that I could actually be good at. Rollercoaster Tycoon. Now, when I say good at, by the end of whatever Disney masterpiece I thought I had created, I definitely let the kids puke everywhere. I didn't have enough bathrooms. I didn't have enough food stands. But I thought I was creating Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom. Yeah. But I loved Roller Coaster Tycoon. And you talked about box art. If you can find the box graphics for that, it like, as an amusement park kid, it just like resonated with me. It like leapt off the box, so to say. We've kind of been talking about games and moving up on our timeline here. I think we've got to talk about Instant Messenger and what this is going to sound so interesting. I thought there was I thought I was using the lame one and then I got the cool one. But other people have been talking to me like, no, the one you had was the cool one. I think it depends on where you grew up.
I think so.
What did you use for Instant Messenger?
It was through AOL. It was just the AOL Instant Messenger. I didn't even, the funny thing is I didn't even know that there were multiple versions of instant messaging. I always thought it was always linked to AOL.
Okay, we had MSN. Oh. And they had their own messenger, MSN Messenger. And my mom was like, that's what we're using. And I was like, Mom, this is so lame. Everyone's got AOL. And then I told that to someone and they were like, that's all we use was MSN Messenger. I was like, what? I thought that was the old person one. Now, what was your AOL chat name or like a version of it? What do you think it was?
I feel like my family had just a singular account on AOL. That's like when you got on, it's like you can hop on the chat room, you can hop on Instant Messenger and message friends, and that you would just share that name. But weirdly, I can't for the life of me remember that original name.
So here's what I had. I had 3 different versions because I couldn't remember my AOL name either. But it was, here's what I came up with: Flying Ducks 88 or Mighty Flyers 96. It had to have been, I know it was Mighty Ducks related because I know.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, that's what I grew up with. And I know another buddy, he had the same name and we were like the Duck Club or something like that. Oh. Club of 2. So I remember that.
You really can't do a flying V with just 2. You need that third. You need the third or it doesn't make sense.
That's right. So then I thought of AOL and we were talking about computer game sounds. I remember the sounds of AOL, of the door opening and of the door shutting. Yeah. Young David, this was in middle school when AOL was really prime for me and my friends. There would be people, girls especially, that I would not talk to at all in the daytime. Mm-hmm. When I got home on the computer, though, I was the man on AOL. Yeah, right?
Absolutely.
And all the confidence, my away messages would be song lyrics. And depending on whether I was sad or trying to like get attention, the lyrics would change. Yeah. But I remember sitting there like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to put an away message up. And then see if the girl like notices and I hear that door open. Boom, I'm back on. I'd run to the kitchen and I'd hear that door and I'd run right back into the computer room. I had nowhere to go. Away messages that I was not leaving the house, but I always remember them being emo song lyrics and I'm away, I'm away, I'm away. I don't know. And maybe that's all it really
David
was.
is just transporting right back in time. Wow.
So, yeah. I will flat out say, like, I was not cool when it came to LimeWire. I installed it, uninstalled it, thinking my computer, the FBI was going to show up. Yeah. I was terrified of LimeWire.
And I 100% agree with you. I thought the second I downloaded it on my computer, that the very first instance that I pirated a song, that the FBI would instantly knock on my door and be like, we're taking your son away. He's a pirate of music. Like, they really made it seem like, one, the software would destroy your computer and like that you clearly would be hacked or there'd be a virus or all these other things. And 2, you would then be arrested. Like, those were the 2 things. But I had so many friends who just That's all they did. And they still are out walking free. So FBI, 30 years later, go get them.
Well, your rap sheet, we all know you've been pirating VHS stuff.
Yes,
so,
I saved my pirating for VHS
Those Napster
stuff,
people were waiting for this one profile family on the computer. They were going to get all of you.